he's right. Style points don't really matter, I guess. Only to the audience.
Sherman.
And I suppose to us.
Yeah, well, John Pullman, the trainer of Gerald Washington. Hey, this is not exactly a surprise how this fight's going. He knew that the fight would go this way and that this was a possibility, that the crowd would get a little anxious. But it's all about looking for improvement in Gerald Washington. We were at his pro debut. It was in San Jose, I believe. That was the Guerrero-Aidin fight, right, in 2012. And he looks very, very raw. He's obviously athletic. He's got size. But heavyweights, you take your time in developing them. There's no rush. He's got to learn better footwork and better balance.
Yeah, got to set down on his punches a little bit more. This is not the guy you pointed it out earlier, really, to throw the jab against, but I think that's got to be a part of his arsenal, being the size that he is.
And something that the Klitschko's and Povetkin have had that Gerald Washington doesn't have is the big amateur background. He had only 15 amateur fights, and that's virtually nothing. Do you think the weather is playing into the pace of this fight at all? We are outdoors.
You know, I was going to say that. Not only are we outdoors, it's very warm.
Yeah.
The sun is not yet set, and they're under the light. So I've got to think it's probably at least 90 degrees in the ring.
These are two very big men.
And the ring is also full of shadows. There was a right hand by Williams, but no damage.
You know, you can't tell by the way he's fighting, but Sherman Williams loves this. That's why he's still doing it at the age of 40.
Hey guys, work out. Let go of the arm. Let go of the arm. Stop. No punch. No punch. Straight back. Straight back. Straight back. Let's go, guys. Box.
Well, he doesn't use a lot of himself either, Williams. So you can see where he likely will be able to go the distance without any problem.
Now, the problem with that right hand that Washington just threw, very ponderous, very slow in coming. Heavy hands, but very slow in coming.
Come up, Sherman.
And we're more than halfway through this fight, and again, you don't see any jabs from Washington. And I think that's for a reason. He doesn't want to get counted with that overhand right. Take away Williams' only weapon.
All right, stop, guys. No punch. No punch. Straight back. Straight back. Let him go. Let him go. Stop at the bell. Box. Stop at the bell, gentlemen. Time.
Well, a reminder tonight on Showtime, great triple header coming up tonight. Marcos Baidana fighting Josecito Lopez in our main event. A couple of other good fights, too.
Well, Angulo Lara, that's going to be a fantastic style matchup.
Demetrius Hopkins battling Jermel Charlo also on that card. Championship boxing coming back on the 22nd. Our own Paulie Malalaji against Adrian Broner. Seth Mitchell is on that card as well against Jonathan Banks. And Sakio Bika will fight Marco Antonio Paraban. And we're back with you on the 13th. Future Boxing Hall of Famer and what a legend, Bernard Hopkins fighting again against Carl Murat. And then on Friday, July 19th, Championship Boxing, a special edition. IBF Junior Middleweight Champion Ishii Smith defending his belt against Carlos Molina. So it's Ishii Smith and Carlos Molina. That's on July 19th, Saturday the 27th. Jesus Soto Carras gets a chance against Andre Berto, Omar Figueroa, and Mijito Arawaka, and Keith Thurman and Diego Chavez on September 14th. Another mega event, the biggest fight in recent years. Floyd Mayweather and Canelo Alvarez on Showtime.
And that, Barry, is a calendar chock full of good fights, and a lot of those fights, 140, 147, 154 pounds. Those are the divisions that are hot right now in boxing. And you saw Seth Mitchell. Seth Mitchell was a linebacker at Michigan State, had an injury, turned to boxing, and he has been the most talked about American heavyweight because he got stopped by Jonathan Banks recently in this fight. Will be a rematch. But trying to follow the same path, or a similar path, as Gerald Washington, who had a cup of coffee with the Seattle Seahawks and Buffalo Bills practice squad.
Washington's starting to open up a little bit more here in this 5th round. 6th round, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, I'd like to see him take a few more chances just to be a little more impressive.
A work in progress, but fighting a guy who has been in there with some very good fighters, a step that almost any prospect has to take at some point or other. He's taking it after a 7th fight. He's doing enough to win the fight. Crowd getting a little bit antsy, though.
Washington being a little too careful for my liking. There he lets go with the right hand. But
get him up. Sorry. Right?
and we talk about him being careful. You see the total punches, only 160 thrown by Washington. That's a running total. Still more than Williams has thrown. But to give you an idea, you might see Williams and say, well, why? How is this a step up for Washington? Washington's last few opponents had 5 fights, 1 fight, 6 fights, and 8 fights.
So that's how.
And that's how. Sherman Williams has had 50 fights. And against Evander Holyfield. And his last fight, Williams, was against Robert Hellenius, who's a top 15 heavyweight. And he had Hellenius hurt. With an overhand right, of course.
And Washington, despite having knocked Williams down, really hasn't hurt Williams in this fight.
Very, very ponderous with his punches, Washington. There's not a lot of hand speed. This is not the second coming of Muhammad Ali.
Straight back. Let's go. Box. Stop
No,
the bell,
and no jab at all. And that part of that may be of choice, but I think somewhere along the line got shot.
Good job. Don't get nervous, though, okay? You know what I'm saying? All he's trying to do is mull you into his overhand right. Now, when you shoot your 1-2, listen what I'm saying, though. Catch your breath. Okay. When you shoot your 1-2, sometimes your head moves, maybe into his overhand right. So before you shoot the right hand, throw